50 drones, and every shot costs us.
The physics contract is broken. You're looking at a mathematical trap.
When the target costs less than the fuel in your interceptor, you go bankrupt just trying to stay alive.
You can watch the grid turn red, one cell at a time. Each one is a future option gone.
We do not need to sink the carrier. We only need to make it too expensive to stay.
In Hormuz, every ship moves through somebody else's geometry. There is no room for a reload.
You feel the choke point from your own windows. You wait for the radar to clear, but it never does.
Every engagement decision carries a price tag. Not just in dollars, but in endurance.
The Navy needed a different answer. They found it in the one place a carrier has an unfair advantage.
The answer wasn't a better missile. It was the ship's nuclear heart.
The trade is ugly, since cheap drones force you to burn high-end interceptors, or let low-cost threats close in.
But a carrier has one unfair advantage: a nuclear heart that turns electricity into ammunition.
Targeting data synced. We're not counting missiles for this layer anymore.
It isn't a movie blast. It's more like a magnifying glass over an ant.
They are using the reactor to defend the deck. The math of the swarm is changing.
The ship is no longer solving every small problem with a finite pile of kinetic rounds.
If they can stay in the lane, we might actually get through this.
We're holding the better missiles for the threats that actually deserve them.
Sea air is dirty. Haze, rain, and salt spray start scattering the beam before it ever reaches the target. In bad weather, that defensive bubble pulls inward fast, shrinking the space where the laser can actually earn a kill.
The track is getting too close. If the beam doesn't hold, we jump back to kinetic.
The weather is our ally. It forces them back to the old math and the old costs.
When the air gets ugly, the cost exchange changes in real time. You start spending missiles again because you have no choice.
Weather's too thick for the beam. Engage with ram. Clear the deck.
A missile solves the problem with blast and fragments, but it leaves another empty cell behind.
The shield is still there, but you can hear the price they're paying to keep it up.
Once you see the laser as an economic tool first and a weapon second, the whole picture snaps into focus.
Presence in a choke point isn't just about showing the flag.
It's about proving you can absorb pressure without backing out of the lane.
The pressure changes when you have a lower layer that can absorb the traffic. Decisions get cleaner.
The Navy found a way to stop bleeding premium inventory on nuisance threats.
The certainty is gone. We can no longer count on every small threat eating from their expensive stack.
They're staying. That's the only thing that matters to a man with a cargo to deliver. They're staying in the fight.
The real change is that a carrier's reactor now contributes directly to local defense. It's helping preserve the magazine and the rhythm of the deck.
We have options now. The reactor is helping us defend the deck and keep the carrier in the fight.
The Navy didn't rush this to look futuristic. They rushed it because the math of warfare changed first. This isn't just about a new gun. It's about how you route the massive electrical output of a nuclear core.
Bridge to engineering. We have the load. Ready to engage the lower tier.
The drones are falling before they reach the inner screen. The math is not adding up.
The reactor is recharging the magazine in real time. Every drone killed this way is a missile saved.
If they can hold the line without burning their own shield, we might actually make the transit.
We're keeping the deck open and the magazine full. That's the new logic of the Gulf.
Once you see the laser as an economic tool first and a weapon second, the whole picture snaps into focus.
At sea, reloading a missile magazine is slow, dangerous, and absolutely not something a commander wants to bet on during a fight.
Every missile we don't fire at a cheap drone is a missile we have ready for a real threat.
The Americans are not retreating to rearm. They are absorbing the swarm and staying in the lane.
The reactor is now functioning as ammunition production for the lower layer of the fight.
They're not thinning out. Usually after a few days of this, the escorts have to pull back to refill their tubes. Not this time.
You are still limited by targeting, cooling, and physics, but you are no longer counting every shot as a tube permanently emptied.
Inventory is stable. We can hold this posture indefinitely as long as the reactor is hot.
The kill is less dramatic than people expect. It's just the drone losing the ability to keep flying.
A commander who can handle a low-end threat with a low-end cost has more room to avoid overreacting.
The Navy isn't chasing novelty. It's moving to adopt a new defense paradigm before the threat advances.
The urgent part is getting a workable lower tier onto ships before repeated pressure turns every deployment into a budget crisis.
We've handled 3 waves.
We still have the depth to stay another week if we have to.
It's less about the weapon and more about the time it buys us. A steady shield means a steady route.
The Americans are not flinching. They are holding the lane aboard the next wave.
The reactor is no longer just pushing the ship through the water. It is helping preserve the escort screen and the missile reserve.
The transit is done. We're into open water. Tell the crew to stand down.
In a choke point, duration matters as much as lethality. They stayed until the job was finished.
We still have options for the next one. That's the win.
The so-called secret weapon is just the beginning. The real story is the change in the math of sea power.
There is a command value here that is easy to miss. More options under pressure doesn't just mean more ways to shoot.
It means better control of escalation. A commander who isn't trapped by his own inventory can make calmer decisions.
You avoid the trap of overreacting to a nuisance threat just because it's the only tool you have left.
Hold the SM-2s. Let the lower tier handle this track. We don't need to light up the whole Gulf for one drone.
The real change is the doctrine. The weapon is just the tool that makes the new logic possible.
They are not giving us the fire we want. They are answering our pressure with silence.
In a choke point, stability is the ultimate weapon. If you can't be baited into a wasteful trade, you win the long game.
The Navy sounds different on the radio today. Less jumpy. Like they have all the time in the world.
We're not just defending a ship. We're defending the idea that we can stay here as long as it takes.
The rush to Hormuz wasn't about testing a laser. It was about resetting the math of the entire region.
This doesn't end with one carrier in one strait. The Navy is racing to spread this logic across the entire fleet.
The palletized design means you don't need a 5-year overhaul to get this capability into the fight. The trend line is clear. Mass is getting cheaper, so the defense has to get faster and more renewable.
They are duplicating the shield. Our window of opportunity is closing hull by hull.
Higher power levels are coming. Soon, it won't just be drones. It will be cruise missiles and beyond.
We're training the next generation of watchstanders to think in kilowatts, not just missile counts.
The route stays open because they found a way to stay in the fight without going bankrupt on the first day.
This is the operational payoff. A Navy that can absorb the pressure of the 21st century.
The secret weapon wasn't the laser. It was the decision to stop playing the enemy's game.
We're still here, and we're not going anywhere.
But don't mistake this for a movie shield. The engineering behind a sea-based laser is a brutal fight against the environment.
In the Gulf, salt spray is a constant. If that lens isn't pristine, the beam diffracts, and the weapon becomes a very expensive flashlight.
Alignment is everything. You're trying to hold a beam the size of a coin on a moving target miles away from a moving deck.
The ship is pitching 5 degrees. The stabilization system is working overtime to keep the turret locked.
The turret has to cancel out the entire ocean's movement in milliseconds. If it slips for a fraction of a second, the heat dissipates.
The Americans are fighting the sea as much as they are fighting us. In a storm, the laser is blind.
Even the air itself fights back. High-power beams can heat the atmosphere so much they actually bend themselves out of focus.
It's a constant trade-off. Every kilowatt we send to the turret has to come from somewhere else in the city.
The weather is turning. If the Navy can't use the beam, we're back to praying their missile magazines are as deep as they say.
This is why they rushed it. To find out if the physics of the lab can survive the reality of the strait.
Staying power is the only currency that matters in a choke point. If you can't hold the lane for a month, you shouldn't be there for a day.
The laser buys that time. It transforms the carrier from a platform with a finite stockpile into a force with renewable endurance.
On a whiteboard, this looks like a cleaner cost exchange. In the Gulf, it means the commander can sleep for 4 hours instead of 2.
The rhythm of the watch has changed. We aren't jumping at every shadow on the radar anymore. We have a buffer.
Endurance is about people, not missiles. A rested crew avoids mistakes.
They are not rotating out. They are settling in. The attrition we expected is not happening.
The reactor is the heart of this endurance. As long as the core is hot, the lower tier of the defense is loaded.
The markets are noticing. The panic is subsiding because the Navy looks like they can do this forever.
We're holding the line. Not with a lucky shot, but with a better logic.
This is the operational payoff. A shield that doesn't blink, and a magazine that doesn't empty.
The secret weapon is a sideshow, and the real shift is doctrinal, as the carrier's reactor now directly supports local defense.
It is not just pushing the ship through the water. It is helping preserve the escort screen, the missile reserve, and the flight deck rhythm.
The bridge officer sees fewer forced choices and less fear of running shallow too early. That is the tactical win.
The tanker captain sees a steadier shield in a narrow lane where hesitation carries its own price.
Even the planner, thinking in cold arithmetic, has to admit the pressure campaign gets harder when the target no longer exhausts at the old rate.
If drone swarms keep getting denser and faster, the fleet will need more electrical power routed to weapons and more layers across more hulls.
The trend line is clear. Cheap mass is not going away, and the Navy is racing to keep its defensive architecture ahead of that curve.
We still have options, because the reactor is helping defend the deck and keeping the carrier in the fight.
The Navy didn't rush directed energy into Hormuz to look futuristic. It rushed it because swarm warfare changed the math first.
Missiles still matter, but now the reactor helps carry the lower layer of defense, preserves the magazine, and keeps the carrier on station longer.
That relief matters. Because when the math of the fight changes, the posture of the fleet has to change with it.
The Navy didn't just survive the swarm. They proved they could do it without burning their future options.
The Americans have found a new way to stay. We must find a new way to make them leave.
The secret weapon isn't a secret anymore. It's the new baseline for sea power in the 21st century.
We're in. The lane held. That's all that matters to us.
Subscribe for more Navy First breakdowns like this, where we look past the hardware to find the real logic behind sea power.
Because in a conflict zone, the only thing more powerful than a weapon is the math that supports it.
Share this with someone who wants to understand why the Gulf just got a lot more complicated for the other side.
The math has changed, and the Navy is just getting started.
I'm the host of Navy Logic, so I look forward to seeing you in our next adventure.